Hey everybody. So welcome to Let's Paint Live, where if you're new to joining us, we teach you how to paint a project in about an hour. And this month we are definitely trying something new and something exciting, and I hope it's something that you guys have never done. So in honor of Valentine's Day, I love Valentine's Day, we are actually going to make cards. So we are going to do a watercolor technique. We're not going to use folk art acrylic this month. We are going to try watercolor pens with Arteza. So this is really fun, really different, and really creative. So welcome. And the first thing I want to do is show you guys the supplies that you will need. Okay, so we're going to make an assortment of cards, but remember, it's more about the technique. So I'm going to teach you the technique. We'll probably complete 1 or 2 cards, but everything that you learn, you can then go and make any design that you want to. So what we're going to need is a watercolor pad. This is the perfect size for cards, 5.5 by 8.5. So you're going to need that as your surface. And then this is new to me, but you guys, I am absolutely enjoying these. So these are brush pens. They're markers. They have a great tip that's almost like a paintbrush. They're water-based, so you can add water and blend just like a watercolor. And then it comes with a watercolor pen, which is filled with water, and it simply allows you to brush on water, blending, highlighting, kind of merging all of your colors together to make that beautiful watercolor finish. And then to finish everything off, we are going to be using the Arteza pens. And these are just fine tip. There's a million beautiful, beautiful colors. And that will allow us to doodle, to add detail, to add words. So to really have fun with our Valentine's cards. Okay, so with that, some basic supplies, paper towels, some water, palette paper, just really to protect your surface. But for those of you that have joined us, we always use a blow dryer because, again, we want to complete our project within the hour. So a blow dryer just to speed things along. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. I am going to remove some of the paper from my watercolor pad. You guys can see it's just thick, it's textured, it's really high quality watercolor paper. It's perfed, so it's easy to turn into a card. I'm just going to remove that. In Arteza, we have so many different size watercolor pads, but this one just happens to be the perfect size to create Valentine's Day cards. All right, I'm going to fold it before we craft, just because then I know exactly the space that we have to work in. All righty, there's one card. This is fun because you can use the pad, you can make a bunch of cards, you can do this as a group. It would be so much fun for a group of friends. It would be so perfect for your family. Just a fun evening of making Valentine's cards. Okay, so I'm going to crease that really hard so that it's easy to work on. And then maybe, here's my little assortment of cards. What if we do this one first, just because it's fun, it's really easy, and it definitely shows you all of the different techniques these watercolor brushes can do. All right, so the first thing I am going to do is I am going to just put a piece of tape across the center of my card. This is just painter's tape, so it'll remove off of this paper perfectly. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to take one of these markers, and this is a step that you guys can kind of choose if you want to do. If you think you want a pattern for the big heart, you could use a pencil. If you think you want to just freehand it, that's perfect too. But what I'm going to do is just very, very lightly, and again, this could be a pencil, I'm just going to draw out the area that I'm going to paint. It's just super light. I'm using a really soft gray. You guys probably cannot even see it, But really all I'm doing, you guys, is making a pattern. You might not need one, but if you feel more confident doing that, definitely add a pattern. All right, and then the watercolor brushes. These are fabulous. So you guys can see this is kind of a pattern that's floral, but don't overthink it. Don't, lay out exact pink flowers there. Don't lay out 3 green leaves there. The fun of watercolor is just kind of letting it happen. All right, so I'm just picking my favorite colors. And you guys, I'm just going to doodle. I'm going to doodle a big flower there. I'm going to doodle another big flower there. Being mindful that I'm going to create an overall heart pattern at the end. I'm not really coloring it in. I'm leaving a lot of paper. Let's see, I'm going to go with a darker purple because I love that magenta-y color. I'm going to do just doodling, just like if you were coloring or doodling in a coloring book. And almost like the tape is not even there. I'm going to use yellow because I love a little bit, maybe some wildflowers. That's a good way to start building the edge of my heart. So that when we blend all of this together, it definitely looks like a large heart. Now I'm going to pick the green. Here again, you're not creating a specific design that is a leaf. You're just applying the color. I think watercolor is becoming my new favorite. One, I love the look, but it is so much fun. Of course, you gotta have pink. It is Valentine's Day. And you guys, this is, again, a kid could do it, a group of people that maybe your book club, maybe just a friend group. You're doing, what do they call it? Something cute. When a bunch of girls get together for Valentine's. I forget. But anyway, that's a fun activity. I'm going to get a little bit of red. Leave a lot of white, though, because when you're working with watercolor, you want areas that your paint can flow and move around in. So you don't want to doodle the entire area. But you can see I'm building upon that heart shape. I've got white areas where my watercolor can, blend and move around. Let's see, maybe a little bit more hot pink. And also always know, really when you're doing any project, whether it's acrylic or watercolor, no two projects are the same. So this is going to look different than this, and yours is also going to look different, but that is a good thing. Okay, so we doodled with our brushes. Make sure your tape is down so nothing bleeds under. Now this is the magic of the brush set. So this is a watercolor brush, and that is simply filled with water. And really the great thing about this is it just gives you so much control. It gives you so much flexibility. You don't get big puddles. You don't have to go in and out of your water. You're just using this to blend all of this together. The best tip that I have is kind of be mindful of starting with a color. So I'm going to start with these large pink flowers and kind of see. The best tip that I have is kind of be mindful of starting with a color. So I'm going to start with these large pink flowers and kind of see how they're going to react to the water. Because you don't want to just brush over it back and forth, because then you'll blend almost too much together. And that you don't want to do. You don't want to create a big puddle. You just want to allow each color to kind of do its magic. Ooh, look how it softens the doodle. It blends the colors together. And now here's another fun tip. Once you've added water, you don't want big puddles, but you guys can go right back in on top of that. If you want a little bit more shading and highlighting, you can go right back in with these markers. They're water-based. You can soften the color even more. There's so much that you can do with these Arteza watercolor brush pens. Okay, I'm going to go back to the watercolor brush, and now I'm going to do this purple. Oops. You can squeeze the brush to get more water. Of course, you can see I squeezed a little too hard right there, but that's okay. You can take that and just move that right around. You can always dab it with a paper towel, which I actually might do. You just don't want puddles. You can always add more water. Look at that. There's no mistakes when you're working with watercolors because it just does exactly what it wants to do, but it's such a fun way to get a unique look. Now I'm brushing over the red, letting it bleed into the pink a little, letting it create a soft edge for the large heart. You want all those different values, which is, it will do that when it blends from the marker doodle area into the water. It'll just soften all of the edges. It's a really pretty look. Don't squeeze your brush. It'll just come out. Look, you've seen I've squeezed it twice. I just wanted to show you guys how easy it is to fix. I'm still jumping around mostly in the pinks. Don't squeeze your brush. It'll just come out. Look, you've seen I've squeezed it twice. I just wanted to show you guys how easy it is to fix. I'm still jumping around mostly in the pinks. Because you want to keep some of that natural background paper. You want to keep that plain so that you've got all of that variation. But you do want to soften each area where you doodled with the markers. You can always go kind of almost outlining the very edge just with water because, let's see if you guys can see that. That's my favorite thing that watercolor does. If you just softly outline, it will just soften that edge with the lightest shade of the marker. And that's a really beautiful technique that you can only get with watercolors. All right, now I'm going to kind of soften the yellow. There's no right or wrong. Maybe soften the green now. So then it can fill in those areas. It's just a really loose, abstract floral pattern. Oh, I think I like it. I love outlining just the outside edge. I'm going to do that one more time. Let me do it up here. I'll definitely hold this up. And maybe a little bit right there. Let me see. I know it's a little baby surface. Oh, let's see if you guys can see that. See how it just blends together and it's really, really soft? That is, oh, that's the beauty of watercolor. And actually, now that I held it up, I saw that side of my heart is the perfect shape. This side caves in a little bit. No big deal. I'm going to doodle just a little. Maybe a little more soft pink right there. A little bit of yellow, maybe. I just want to kind of even out this side just a little. And then I'll go back in with the watercolor brush. I think that's better. Okay, so I am going to let that dry. You guys can see it's definitely wet or damp, but there's no big puddles of water. If there are, maybe just take the edge of your paper towel, but I'm going to let that one dry while we work on a second one. So what if we do this one? Because this is just a totally different type of design. Again, you guys have fun with it. You can do large hearts. You can do, really specific, again, if you're having some girlfriends over. But all of the techniques that we're learning on the cards that we're doing, you can create any design that you want. Okay, so I'm going to use the marker again for nothing more than to apply the pattern. And all I'm going to do, I'm not going to draw out each element. I'm going to simply make the bottom, which is where my vase will sit. I'm going to draw out my vase just so I've got kind of a shape to follow. And I'll hold this up so you guys can see it. And then for the flowers, I am not going to draw that as a pattern because we're not color book painting where we're following a specific pattern. But I am going to sketch out maybe 5 or 6 of the hearts that will become the main elements in the bouquet, but literally just for placement. Let's see if I hold that up, if you guys can see it. See, it's just a really, really basic pattern just to give me confidence to start applying color. Okay, so we're going to start with the elements. The background we're always going to do last with this technique. So I am going to get, I might be maybe a little bit more red in this design. These markers are great because you can get a really wide brush stroke. You can also get some really fine detail by just using the tip of the markers. Like, look how much detail you get with a really, really wide tip. I love that. All right, gotta have pink. I think what I love about the markers also is everyone has used a marker or a pen. So it kind of automatically comes with confidence that, oh, I can do that. I can color, I can doodle. Whereas watercolor, for me anyway, does not come with a bunch of confidence. It's kind of intimidating and you're not really sure what you're going to get or what brushes you use. Again, for me, but the markers combined with watercolor, with that built-in confidence, just makes a project like this, to me, so manageable and something that I just know I'm going to have more success creating because of the marker. So you can see I'm just adding hearts. That's the main element for my bouquet. All right, now I'm going to go down to the jar or the vase, and really the same concept. You want to add a lot of color, but you don't want to completely fill that in solid because you want areas where the water can move the color and create that really beautiful finish. Maybe a lighter blue on this side. Oh, that's pretty similar. Let's see. I might add a little bit of, oh, here's a really pretty teal. But leaving that paper, again, so the water can move that around and create a really pretty finish. Okay, for the green, just like on the previous design, we're not going to do specific leaves. We are just going to apply the color in between the little heart flowers. Remember, you can always go back in and add more, but you can't take it away. I'm going to do some dark green. I'm going to overlap it with some light green. Maybe there's some leaves that I know are falling out on this side of my little bouquet. Same rule applies, leaving some open space for the water to move the color. But you guys, look, I'm just doodling. Maybe there's a little leaf that comes out over the top. Just little sketchy scratch marks of color. Okay, I'm not going to do my background yet. So the yellow stripes or whatever color stripes that you're going to do, that comes at the end. Maybe just a little bit more. I really love that dark green. All right, now for the fun. I've got my watercolor brush. I think I'm going to do the vase first. Starting on the color, the blue that I applied with the brush markers. And I'm just going to wet it and just kind of see how it starts to move. Squeeze a little bit if you need more water on your card. And I'm going to wet the inside. Always dab it on a paper towel if you've got too much water. I'm going to outline a little bit of the edge with just plain water, just so that color moves over there. I think I did this on the other one, but you can do the water and then go back with the marker if you've got an area that you want a little more texture to or a little pattern. Okay, I think I like my little vase. Sometimes the marker picks up color on your water brush, so just you can dab that in the water and remove that on a paper towel. Okay, so now same tip as on our markers. It's got a really, really fine tip if you don't apply any pressure. So that's what we're going to do, very light-handed for our little heart flowers. And I'm just going to wet the red ones. And then I'm actually going to outline them just a little bit off the edge of where I applied the red color. And the reason I'm doing this, you guys, I will hold it up. I know it's sometimes hard to see these tiny little details. I'm going to wet the heart, but then I'm going to outline so that I get that really soft edge and just some fun detail. Let's see if I can hold that up. Space my hand steady enough. Can you guys see? Oh, where the water blends, not too much, because you don't want it to mud into the green and just make a big mess. You want to stay a little bit controlled when you're working with colors that are close. Whoops. Easy to just dab off. So now I'm wetting the pink. And then same thing, I'm just going to outline around each little heart so that then the water can kind of just determine where that color blends and bleeds. Oh, I'm going to kind of define that heart a little bit more. All right. I'm going to try to hold that up again. I just want you guys to see how it went from marker to watercolor. So quick and so easy. Okay, I am going to let that dry just a little bit, because when you've got two colors that are so different, reds and greens, pinks and greens, you want to be a little bit mindful when you add the watercolor technique, because you want it to blend, you want it to bleed together, you want it to look really natural like watercolor, but you don't want to risk it becoming a mess. So what I'm going to do is let that dry and move back to this card and check on it. It's almost totally dry. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove my tape. Ooh. With traditional watercolor, you guys, I would never be able to get that fine line. There would be so much water, there'd be so much moisture, but with the markers and the simplicity of using a watercolor brush, you can get that fine line just with tape. Okay, so make sure it's dry. Mine is almost 100% dry, but I am going to dry it the rest of the way with a hairdryer. totally dry. And the reason you want it totally dry, if you're using the fine tip markers, which we are going to go back and add all of our doodles and our words and personalize, you want it totally dry. But if you guys just love the watercolor technique, you can just let it air dry and it will dry very, very quickly. All right, so now I am going to go through these beautiful colors for the fine tip markers, and I'm going to find complementary, of course, a green. I'm going to find a pink, maybe a yellow. Let's see, maybe one more green and a red. Again, you can doodle with whatever color that you want. Now, these are not the watercolor pens. These are just fine tip Arteza markers. Okay, and now we are going to doodle. There is no right or wrong to this. You're going to kind of pick out different elements, and you're going to draw the details, whether it be the center. You know what, I'm going to do a darker color so that you guys can see it. You're not going to outline where the watercolor moved your color. You're just going to create a doodle pattern on top of the different colored areas. So I'm going to just doodle the center of the flower, the details, maybe a few little petals. Let's see, I'm going to switch to the yellow and just do almost like a little doodle polka dot pattern to look like little wildflowers over the yellow. I'm going to use the red and do little smaller daisies. And it's really pretty when you go not only over the dark area where the red or whatever color was, but you kind of bleed into that light area with the marker, because that allows you to get, to get all of that detail. You're not outlining any area specifically. You're just accenting everything with the markers. This would be a really fun family activity. The mom could do the watercolor, and then once it's dry, she could hand this over, and the kids could do all the fun doodling. They could personalize their cute little handwriting, could add some detail to make Valentine's cards for everyone. This might be too light. Yep, I'm going to move to a darker green so that you guys can see it. So the green is just areas of green. The marker allows you to turn that into a little leaf that's part of your floral design. Let me get a really pretty magenta. The fine tip markers and the watercolor brushes, oh my gosh, you could doodle almost anything. It'd be such a fun way to do art. It would be such a fun way to travel and bring your crafts with you. And also, obviously, a really fun way to make Valentine's cards. Okay, and then I'm going to pick navy this time, but you can put any sweet message in the middle. The markers are so fun to work with. Again, anybody can use a marker. Lots of colors, lots of detail. The fine tip is so perfect. Oh, I love the navy. Oh, make that one a little thicker. I might actually go in and just, because I love the navy, I'm going to just dot and scribble little areas within the composition. because I love the way that navy looks. And there you go. You've got a cute little watercolor card. Super easy, great for all levels and all ages. Okay, we're going to move back to this one really quick. Just to show you, the red, the pink is mostly dry. It doesn't have to be totally dry. But I'm going to go in there and just blend the green. It's okay if it bleeds into the red. It's okay if it bleeds into the pink. Whoops. Because that is part of the beauty of the watercolor. I'm just softening, and all those colors are going together. You know, so that has created the background for the little bouquet. The leaves, the stems, we'll define those with the fine marker once that dries. Again, any areas where you have too much water, you just want to stick the edge of a paper towel in there so it doesn't run too much. But remember, there's no mistakes. Where that red and green came together, it's just another element of your design. Okay, and now I love a stripe. Everyone is seeing stripes everywhere, I know. So I'm going to pick this soft yellow, and just like you would do in a coloring book with a marker, I'm just going to create long stripes. I'm not going to go into my bouquet. I'm going to just work around it because I don't want that yellow to mix in too much. So don't go through your design. Stop and just kind of use your stripes to outline the area. Remember, they're loose and flowy. You can use whatever color you want. You guys, you could leave it like that. It's kind of fun to have the watercolor soft elements, but then have the bold stripes. Or you can go back and just soften it with the water. I'm just going directly over my stripes. Softens the edge, kind of lets them bleed together a little bit. And here, have fun with it. It's just however you want your background to feel. If you want it to be extra soft, you can add water in between those stripes, because then that yellow will kind of bleed into that. And they won't be as bold. I'm just going to kind of let the yellow do what it's going to do. I'm going to add water in between the stripes because that'll soften it a little bit. Yep. But you still have a defined stripe. It's just not exactly. It's nice and soft. Oh, I love it. Okay. Check for any areas, because you don't want to use the blow dryer and blow your design all over your card. My composition is almost dry, and there's a little bit of water on my stripes, but not too much. So I'm going to turn it on low, and I'm going to dry that completely. All right, everything is dry. I'm going to hold that up. I know it's hard to see because it's so tiny, but can you guys just see how beautiful and soft all the colors created that watercolor effect? Okay, and now for the pens. Same thing that we did on the other card. You're just doodling to kind of define some of the elements. So I'm going to create a stem for each of my little flowers that goes into my vase. I'm going to create a leaf pattern. Again, not everywhere. Let that background where the greens bled together, let that be really natural. And just doodle over it. Maybe up here, I'm going to have like a little stem with a few little branches and do little tiny leaves just to get some fun detail. I might do that here where that green is above the flower or above the heart. Don't cover all the areas because the elements that are just the natural watercolor is really pretty. Okay, then I'm going to use a red. And I'm just going to add just a little scribble pattern around some of my hearts, because I want it to match with the doodled areas of everything else, but I don't want to cover up where the watercolor bled. And then I might take this teal marker and maybe outline, add an edge, maybe even add just a really soft pattern to the little vase. Some little curly cues. Just to create that pen and ink look. And then maybe just a little detail that puts that on a table. And then, let's see, maybe some pink. Just some little dots around the green that I already doodled to represent just little wildflowers that are part of my bouquet. You can add as much or as little as you want. I'm really just scribbling and adding dots just to add the details. And then you can add some words. You can leave it alone, whatever you want, but the fine tip markers are just perfect for personalizing. You plus me. And there's so many colors, you guys. There's probably five different grays, 20 different pinks. You have so many choices of beautiful colors. Oh, I hope you guys can see it. So the watercolor first, let it dry, and then have fun doodling over the top with the fine tip Arteza markers. And you guys will have a fabulous assortment of Valentine's cards to give to everybody. So you guys, thank you for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful time. Today was a little different with all the fun Arteza products, but the watercolors and the fine tip markers and the watercolor pads by Arteza make perfect cards. So remember, we are the first Thursday of every month. We teach you a painting in about an hour. So I'm going to show you what March has in store for you. March is also a little bit fun. We're using the Let's Paint Live kit, but we're also including our new apple barrel paint markers, which are fabulous. So in honor of St. Patrick's Day, lots of additional luck in March with all of the luck icons. So this will be the painting that we will do in March. So I hope that you guys are inspired to